I know because I've heard this conversation related. Get up and dress that boy and take him to Sunday school. So my first recollection of going to church was when I was about 2 years of age in a Presbyterian Sunday school class. My first recollection. I can remember the lilt of the songs that were sung, and I can remember the story because you have to understand, I am 2 years of age and my eyes are bigger than my head, and I saw a big boat filled with animals. And they said a flood of waters was coming over all the earth. And God told Noah to build a boat and save the animals. 2 years of age, I have that memory. Before the memory, I have the genes of forebearers. When I was 4 years old on a Sunday morning at that big prestigious Presbyterian church in Bessemer, Alabama, Herschel, it's Sunday morning, get up and bring that boy to church. So I went to church that day. My mother reminded me that I have a picture not of the day you went to church, but the little suit you had on, short pants, little checkered vest and whatever, little bow tie, 4 years old. And the Presbyterian Church is a very well-ordered, well-oiled and well-ordered organization. And folks don't just get up and run out the door and, all that kind of thing. They wait for the choir to sing, and they have to wait for the ushers to come, and one row at a time you go out, and you wait in line until everyone has shaken hands with the pastor, Brother Bryant. You're a 4-year-old. Adults are up to here. Brother Bryant has a robe on. The choir has robes on. It's a very memorable experience. I'm standing in line with my grandmother, and there's a lady behind us with her husband. And she spoke over me. I'm standing there. She spoke over my head, and she says, "Ray, who is this fine young man with you today?" "This is my grandson, Charles." I can remember exactly the look, the words. I can remember precisely what was said. She bent over down to my level and looked me in the eye, eyes to eyes. "I know he's going to be a great man for God." That's what she said. Do you understand how God works in our lives, whether we understand it at the time or not? Do you understand how God sows seed, plants seed, waters seed for a lifetime? Sure you do. Well, we're about to have the watering. A lot of seeds been planted in your life and mine, a lot of seed. Not all of it exactly perfect, but a lot of seed. Good seed has been planted. A few weeds. A lot of weeds. For some of you. But God is about to water, and God is about to commission His servants to make a separation. I like the watering. The separation scares me to death. I don't mind telling you. There's an excitement in my Christian experience about what I see coming, and at the same time, it scares the daylights out of me. Not because somebody is going to hate me, but because I am about to meet the King. Face to face. And I'm not prepared for that. All Moses was allowed to see was his back. I want to see you. Moses, you don't understand. And what is it in Revelation 6 that the wicked cry?
Face of the Lamb.
Hide us from the face of him that cometh. For the great day of what has come? His wrath has come. So I'm excited and I'm frightened. Is that a mistake? I think it's reality. And I think any person who is coming to this time with any sense of understanding what we're talking about, the end of the world, it's not simply the end. The world's going to go on. After 1,000 years, it's going to go on. It's not simply that it's the end of the world. It's that all business, all accounts must be paid free and clear. I have nothing. And as long as I know that, and you know that, we've got a chance. You understand what I'm saying? You understand that I have nothing and you have nothing, but I have everything because I have Jesus. Amen. If you have friends, if you have family, and they're in Southern California, and any part of what we discussed earlier in the day should take place, if they survive the event, they're going to be in desperation. They're going to be looking for help, place to go. If they have a motorhome or a travel trailer or a tent or nothing, they're going to be looking for a place to go, shelter overhead, whatever. And many of our friends who have supported us through the years, they're not spring chickens anymore. And they don't just pick up and say, well, I've decided to move to the country. Yeah. We're talking about some difficult things. And the question is, if God gave you an opportunity to meet this larger need, which it looks to me is about to become reality, how would you meet the need? What's the first thing you would do? You would pray. Now tell me what you would pray for. First thing, direction. Direction. I doubt that God's going to direct every person to exactly the same address. I doubt it. But I'm quoting her when she says, I was shown that God has places for his people. If they would only inquire of him, he will show them. Now maybe that's property that you own. Maybe that's property that you don't own. Maybe that's property that someone has prepared ahead of time. Maybe, I don't know. But your part is to earnestly inquire God for duty. Now what about making preparation? I've tried to talk to a lot of people, friends like you, and I've tried to ask without pushing too hard. Do you know how to make a garden? Do you have the tools to make a garden? And by the way, the tools that don't require tractors and diesel. Hey, do you know how to grow something to eat? Most folk either can't, have not, or has been so many years they forgot and don't remember. One of my first lessons was from a grandmother, a fantastic Seventh-day Adventist Christian. And she lived in little rental quarters with my grandfather. And I stayed 1 year with my grandparents. And my grandmother would say, Sonny, come here. And she would give me a little pan with kitchen scraps. And she would give me a tablespoon, and she would say, now go out and dig along the fence. Dig a little trench, put it in, and bury it. I didn't know what that was all about. I had no idea. I was a kid. But I did. Now come springtime, guess what she did? She went out and planted beans down that fenced row. And boy, did they love all those scraps. You listening? But if she had to survive on that little 20, 30 foot of green beans on the fence, that's not survival. I mean, it might be for a day or two or a week or two, but that's not survival. My same grandmother, when my mother was a child in the Depression, my same grandmother had 7 children. My grandfather was a coal miner, immigrated from England. He came to work in the coal mines of Alabama. He and his brother and his father. And the Depression came and the coal mines shut down. There was no Social Security. My mother was a teenager. She was the eldest of 7 children. So her mother depended on Lily to help take care of the other 6. My mother told me on this one occasion we had no food left in the house. We had 2 slices of bread for a family of 7 and 2, 9 people. 2 slices of bread. And you have children who are always hungry. Always hungry. And my mother said, we were hungry. My mother said, God's going to take care of us. And there were those times when some neighbor down the street would come and put a bag of potatoes and a quart of milk and some bread, a loaf of bread on the front porch. And they would not even knock on the door, just there. Are you listening? I believe those hard times are coming again. I do. I don't think they're going to come immediately, but I believe they're coming again. I'm going to quote the little lady with the red books. I saw that those who had a place to go and take their families and grow something to eat would live like what? Kings and queens. Just grow a little something to eat. Fresh food is always best.
That's true.
Fresh food is always best.
Something's better than nothing.
So you learn, if you're gardening, you learn that some things really come along in a hurry. So I plant my turnip greens, and in 30 days, I'm ready to harvest turnip greens. Not turnip roots, turnip greens. Good nutrition because they are greens, greens, greens. Good nutrition. And I can plant my collards, and my collards, as far south as we are, will make greens the healthiest greens of all in the garden. Collard greens will make greens all winter long. Now, if it was just me and my wife or me and my family. So this is what I have said to quite a few persons, and most of them I said, for $300 you can buy the implements you need to garden. For $300 you can buy the implements and the seed you need to make a crop. I mean, everything from tomatoes to green beans to you name it. For $300. You think you could scrape $300 together? Well, yeah. Most people, sadly, don't know what to do with the seed and the implements when they get them again. The work, that's W-O-R-K, the work of the people of God is to prepare. Pre means ahead of time. Prepare for the events of the future, which will soon come upon them with blinding force. So all I want to say to you is, I'm watching, I'm listening as people come and say, I know where there are properties. And if God makes the way, we're going to make a way for some people. That's as far as I want to go with that. I need to walk you over a few of these quotations through. Millions where? Come on. Millions where? In the cities must soon decide. Didn't say millions in the country. It says millions in the cities. Men will soon be forced. I don't like that word. Forced to great decisions. They must have opportunity to hear and understand Bible truth in order that they may take their stand intelligently on the right side. That's when the vote is being taken in heaven in the court up there and being taken down here. The court of heaven, the court of men. And how do you vote down here? Tell me how you vote down in heaven. It will be the yeas and the nays. How do you vote down here? Come on. What's Revelation, Daniel and Revelation all about? How will you vote? Just say yes. No, just say no. Say no to what? To the mark, the number, or the name. It's going to be simple, but not simple. They have to take an intelligent stand on the right side. God is now calling on his messengers in no uncertain terms to warn the cities while mercy still lingers. So, how would you go about that? Well, I'm going to knock on every door in Chicago. Good luck. Well, at least I can get New York City done. Good luck. How about Pittsburgh? Good luck. What would you do to warn all the people in these cities? What would you do? The perfect storm is coming. So when we prayed, we went to God and said, this is what you're saying. Give us the means to print enough millions of these, so that we can mail one to every home in the United States and Canada first. Don't leave Jerusalem until. So what would you do? That's what we've prayed for. 103 million to do this. United States and Canada. That's what we're asking God to do. We have been challenged. We have been commissioned. We are called and we are chosen. While multitudes are yet susceptible to the converting influences of Bible truth. That sounds as though something is going to happen that folk may want to do, but oh, they are fearful if they do, their families will go what? Come on. If I make the wrong choice here, I know you say it's the right choice. The preachers are telling me the right choice is to do what God says, but I'm afraid if I do what? My family's going to what? Go hungry. Great choices. Crime and iniquity in the large cities of the land is appalling. The wickedness of the wicked is almost beyond comprehension. What God's servants do to warn and prepare men for the day of judgment must be done what? And here we are. We've been talking all morning about, looks like we're down to the last 7 years. Possibly, possibly, possibly. How are you going to get it done? Let me tell you what we've seen with our own eyes. We have gone into 167 countries of the world. I mean, you're talking about folks from Alabama. 167 countries. We have gone into cities and countries where no one knew us. We've taken boxes of books, stacked up, and we have a little sign in whatever language, free book. Publishers give away free book, and then we start handing them out. And the people flock and crowd and start shoving and banging one another because that's mine. We have seen people come out of the crowds. Listen, we have seen people come out of the crowds. We don't know them. We don't know them from, we've never seen them. We don't even speak their language. And they come and they say, even in Washington, D.C. It's an incredible thing to see them get off of the metro in Washington, D.C. and say, looks like you need some help. People just come out of the crowd and say, let me help. If they can't speak your language, they just make the gesture. And suddenly they just fade away. There's no doubt in my mind who they are, where they came from. That's what we're going to see. According to the little lady in the red books, this is what we're going to see all over the world, from the plow and the pen and the desk, and God is going to move upon the hearts of men. But we got to print the books. They got to have something to... I'm bidden to declare the message that cities full of transgression, sinful in the extreme, will be destroyed by earthquakes, fire, flood, calamities are going to come. Most awful, unexpected. These destructions will follow one after another. God allows them to suffer calamity that their senses may be awakened. He will punish cities and places where men have given themselves up to the possession of satanic agencies. I didn't say Hollywood. I didn't say it. I didn't say San Francisco. I didn't say it. Don't put words in my mouth. They're not the only places. Everywhere there are men who should be out in active ministry, giving the last message of warning, warning, warning to a fallen world. Now tell me what kind of warning you would give to somebody. So the Lord showed up with a couple of angelic sidekicks and said, that's Abraham's tent, let's go over there. And Abraham bowed himself, and finally Abraham recognized that this was not an ordinary person, because he said certain things, and Sarah laughed behind the tent. And this visitor said, why did you laugh? Oh, I didn't laugh. Oh, yes, you did. You know, this is a replay of the garden. You know that, don't you? Look, Abraham, I'm not going to keep this from you any longer. We came here on a mission. My two angelic helpers here, I'm sending them on down to Sodom and Gomorrah with a commission. And I'm just telling you because you've got family down there. Oh, Abraham goes into all of this. If you find 50, if you find 40, if you find 30, if you find 20, if you find 10, can't even find 10. Yeah, if we can find 10, we won't destroy the place. Inhabitants of the ungodly city soon to be visited by calamities have been cruelly neglected. Well, there's not much you and I can do about it. But there's one thing that we have prayed for, waited for, that we can do. The perfect storm is what? Is coming. There's a warning to the inhabitants of the cities. The time is near when large cities will be swept away. All should be warned of these coming judgments, but who is given to the accomplishment of this work, giving to it the wholehearted service that God requires. This is why for years running, we have come to you and to friends all over this country and beyond and said, look, we're going to have a good time studying the Bible prophecies. But we must never forget that we have a work to be done. Never forget that there is a work to be done. Who is giving to the accomplishment of this work wholehearted service that God requires? We've got a young fellow out in California, John. Got a good name. He's a single young man. He's a bright young man. He lives a John the Baptist, almost John the Baptist kind of existence. And he gives out books all over, all over. Where is he now, George? I don't know. At the present time, there's not a thousandth part being done in working the cities that should be done. And they would be done if men and women would do their whole duty. I'll tell you, I've got a plan. I would like to send you into every neighborhood in Chicago. How would you like that? Now, in Chicago, they have some of the strictest gun laws, and so you can't pack heat. No. You're the good guy. Good guys don't carry guns. Can't carry guns. So I want to give you an assignment and send you into every neighborhood in Chicago. Isn't that a cheering proposition? But if you and I could get our heads and pocketbooks together, we could send one of these to every address. And let the postman pay the price. I have pages and pages and pages in the red books. It says, try. And if that doesn't work, try something else. And if that doesn't work, try something else. We have years behind us now. We have 37, 38 years of not just trying, but doing. We know what works. I like this statement, no time to lose. The end is near. Passage from place to place. You know she wrote this 100 years ago, don't you? Passage from place to place, spread the truth, will soon be hedged with dangers on the right hand and the left. Everything will be placed to obstruct the way of the Lord's messengers, so they will not be able to do that which it is possible for them to do now. Every time I read this, Lord, 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 wondered why in the world did you send us into all of these cities and all of these airports when we could go with our clothes on? We could go in the airport, pass by everybody, take our carts loaded with boxes of books, and nobody said a thing except thank you.
In our box cutters.
We wondered, what in the world? Why are we doing all of this now? The world's not going to end for another 50 years. Because then you could do what you cannot do. They will not be able to do that which it is possible for them to do now. We have warnings now which we may give, work now which we may do, but soon more difficult than we can imagine. Again and again, I'm instructed to present to our churches the work that should be done in our large cities. See, when I joined the Adventist Church back in the 50s, when I joined the Adventist Church, we had a lot of people, especially in the South where we're more conservative, used to be anyhow. We had a lot of people who put stock in the red books. And if God's servant said, this is what you should do, there were people who put shoe leather on it. There are entire conferences where you cannot stand in the desk on Sabbath morning and read from the red books. Not permitted. The work which the church has failed to do in a time of peace and prosperity, she'll have to do in a terrible crisis under the most discouraging, forbidding circumstances. Boy, all of this sounds so good. So, the results of the circulation of the great controversy. Wow, you have my attention. The results of the circulation of the great controversy are not to be judged by what now appears. By reading it, some souls will be aroused. By a much larger number who read it will not take their position until they see the very event